If you're serious about retiring within a few years, or about being better with your savings and investing, then this video is a must-watch for you because we're going to cover some of the most impactful things you can do to help build your wealth this year. One of the most influential parts of a successful retirement plan is maintaining awareness about what should be happening during the year. This is true for many parts of a retirement plan, and the investment and savings parts are no exception. So let's get into it. The first is to save and invest no matter the environment. The beginning of the year is the perfect time to sit down and think about how much you can be saving in your TSP or even outside throughout the year. If you received a raise or a COLA this year, then you should consider increasing your TSP contribution if you're not already doing the max. And remember, if you're turning 50 this year, now you get to start doing the catch-up contribution, which is a significant amount more. And if you can afford to do so, consider saving outside the TSP as well. If you and your spouse earn a combined income, are you finding that you spend through everything that doesn't go to your retirement accounts? Are your checking and savings accounts growing, staying the same, or getting smaller? And if you're not sure, that's okay. You're like most people who, when life gets busy and there's just enough cash flow, you're really not having to think too much about how much you spend day in and day out. We know that life gets busy and we seldom take the time to manage cash flow, especially when there's enough of it coming through the threshold to take care of anything we need. But consider the kinds of tax statuses that your money can have in retirement. We have tax-free money, which is Roth, tax-deferred, which is traditional, and also taxable or after-tax dollars like individual joints, trusts, things like that. And really, each one of these offers a specific benefit when it comes to generating your retirement income that you're going to need later on. If all of your money is considered tax-deferred and pre-tax, then your retirement paychecks are going to be made predominantly of pre-tax money, and you might pay extra taxes as a result. Whereas if you do some saving outside the TSP in individual and joint accounts as well, it would be nice to have some of your money that's now only subject to capital gains instead of ordinary income tax. So if you can build up your non-retirement accounts as well, you'll thank yourself later. And this gets easier the later you are in your career because you're likely making more money the more you progress. So think carefully about what will you do with that extra cash flow. And for any of these extra savings, think about what you're going to do with that cash. If it's just sitting in a bank, what might you be earning? Well, maybe 0.01%. The other day I saw 0.02%. Hey, that's double, so good on them, right? The banks typically are not the highest paying location for things like cash. Of course, you can get things like CDs and so forth, but they come with some challenges as well. On the other hand, you could consider something like a money market, which in some cases are paying 4 to 5% or maybe even slightly more. So for every $10,000 that you have sitting in a money market, you could be walking away with $500 a year in extra interest just for leaving your cash there. Now, the markets are expecting that interest rates will begin to reduce this year, so you'll want to watch carefully to see what happens with interest rates over time and see if you don't want to lock in something like a bond that will continually pay you, whereas money markets are going to float up and down according to what's going on in the markets. Now, what about your retirement accounts? What if you're also saving into Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs? Even inside the TSP, there are some things you're going to want to start to keep in mind for the year. Remember that Secure Act 2.0 brought forth some changes that are going to be pretty impactful here in the coming years. In fact, 2024 was supposed to be the first year under which anyone making $145,000 or more and was making a catch-up contribution, that catch-up amount was going to be forced to be Roth contributions. So that effectively means that you're no longer getting that tax deduction like you once were. And you'll recall that the catch-up amount for 50 and up is $7,500 per person per year. So if there's two of you, that's $15,000 in extra ordinary income that you have to now pay taxes on. Fortunately for us, the IRS introduced a transitionary period, 2 years, under which the TSP and 401ks and retirement accounts like that have to begin to introduce this new rule into their systems. But that means that you only have a couple more years to make use of these tax deductions if it's most appropriate for you. Maybe a Roth is actually better for you, but again, you want to be making sure that you're thinking about this ahead of time. Speaking about taxes, this is also the right time to start preparing for higher taxes. Our current tax brackets are a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017. One important piece of that law is that it's designed to sunset at the end of 2025. This means that we only have this year and next year until tax rates are going to change substantially if no tax law changes occur. And here's what you can expect. This is a table of the 2024 brackets versus the pre-Tax Cuts and Jobs Act brackets. Okay, so for this year, we're looking at married filing jointly because that's where most people stand. And you'll see that somebody in the 22% bracket right now, even if they're somewhere in the middle, not even on the high end, what happens when these rates change? Well, they're actually going to be in the 28% bracket going forward. That means some of their money is going to be taxed at 6% higher. But it gets even worse. For folks who are in the 24% bracket, you don't even need to be that far into it. $237,000 is going to take you into the 33% bracket. That's a 9% jump in taxes on a really large portion of your income, particularly if you are on the high end of that tax bracket. Folks, I have been shouting this from the mountaintops. If you're not incorporating tax planning into your overall wealth management, then you're really leaving value on the table. The success of your investment strategy is only as good as it's supporting tax planning to help you keep more of what you earn. And with current law, it's very likely that your income, whether salary from your agency or income from your retirement portfolio, is going to be taxed at a higher rate very soon. So think about some of the tax planning strategies that you might want to use for yourself. One that's very popular is called a Roth conversion. And here's a few scenarios where you might consider a Roth conversion. The first, if most or all of your money is inside traditional or pre-tax TSP or IRAs. Number two is if you're planning on still earning some kind of income into your retirement years. Number three, if you're expecting to come into any kind of inheritance, especially if you're inheriting a retirement account. And number four, if you're going to have your own required minimum distributions or RMDs here within the next few years. Okay, the next thing you want to prioritize this year is to get a handle on your cash flow. Even the strongest retirement plan can be derailed by not having the correct spending plan. Whether you're spending more because you're paying higher taxes, on higher inflation, or just a higher lifestyle, there's virtually no retirement plan that's 100% bulletproof. We can create incredibly strong and long-lasting retirement plans, but if the cash flows just don't stick to plan, this is easily one of the quickest ways that you can ruin your financial independence. We often tell our clients to become aware of something called lifestyle creep, particularly if you're retired or close to it. While working, people tend to manage their budget a little bit better based off of their paychecks that they're getting from their salary. But in retirement, now you've got this large pile of money from whence you can derive your retirement paychecks, and it can become easy to justify one-time expenses. So how do you think about this? Well, you want to focus on how much money is coming in, that's inflows of cash, versus how much money is coming out. That's the outflow of cash going towards your expenses. You'll note that for most people, they've got more dollars coming in than they have going out. And this is a general equation up until retirement. You'll find that your net cash flow actually might turn negative. And that's because you're spending down your assets at this point while not earning anything except for maybe your first pension, Social Security, and everything else comes from your pot of gold. And the key here is how much can you take out from a percentage, from a dollar amount. A lot of people talk about the 4% rule. Be careful with a generalization like this. There are cases under which that's fine, cases you can take more, times that you need to take less. It really does depend on your plan. So make sure that you're aware what your spending plan is and how you can be adjusting that over time. The next one is to consider risks beyond the markets. When people think about how much risk they have in their retirement plan, most people think about their stock to bond allocation. But financial planning involves so much more than just your investment portfolio. There are things that we can't control at all, like inflation or the economy, and some that we have some control over, like our health and how we manage our cash flows, how we're investing, and so forth. But beside the investments, one way that wealthy families preserve their wealth is by reviewing their insurance portfolio. And you should assess whether you are over or underinsured in three main categories. The first one being your life. Another way to look at this is just general longevity. If you end up not living as long as you had originally planned, can your family support having less income coming in every month to them? No matter whether you're retired or still working, your premature death is going to result in less money coming into the family. If you're working, your salary goes away. If you're retired, a portion of your first pension will go away, and one Social Security is also going to go away. So maybe this means that potentially your life requires some insuring. Now, if you've been a good saver, like many of our clients, then it's possible that life insurance may not even be needed. So if you currently have FEGLI or other kinds of policies, you should look to see, is there something else that you should be doing with that money instead? Number 2, your general health. This is also known as morbidity. And you'll just have to excuse my handwriting. What if you live long, but you don't really live as healthily as you'd like? How much support are you going to need? How much is this going to cost? Can you afford to get support in home? When might you have this expense? How long can you afford to keep doing this? There's a lot of questions that come into this, and again, if you've been a good saver, maybe this isn't something that you need to insure against, but you should be doing the projections to understand what happens if this comes down the line. Because you don't want to get to that point and recognize, we didn't have enough assets for this, we should have gotten an insurance policy, whatever the case is. And the third one on this is your property. Okay, also casualty. With this, it's a little simpler. You want to consider what your limits are currently set to be. What if you cause an accident that goes above and beyond your limits? Do you have umbrella insurance that's going to kick in? What if somebody gets injured on your property? Are you protected, specifically your non-retirement assets, against lawsuits if the family comes after you? These are extremely rare circumstances, but just like death, we want to make sure that we are insuring against them in a way that's not going to create any kind of risk to your well-being. As with most insurance, strive to solve a problem first. Once you know what you're trying to solve for, then you can figure out what kind of product is potentially going to help you do that. So consider the risks that are beyond just your investments as well, and other areas of your overall financial well-being. And this year, we only have a few slots open each month for new families that are interested in working with us. So if you're 1 or 2 years away from retirement, or maybe you're already retired and you want to know how you can apply, check out our website at thefedcorner.com. And until next time, stay wise and stay wealthy.